Awesome. So just an introduction. Hey everyone, my name is Dhruv Patel. I'm a sales engineer here at UiPath. So, knowledgeable on the platform, the products, solutioning, how they can work together, and really be used to meet, some of the things you're looking to do from an automation perspective. And so today I'm here. I'll share an update around 22.10, some of the new capabilities and features, and then of course, leave some room for questions. But as I go through the slides, definitely feel free to just jump in, unmute yourself, and ask away as we go. So I'll share my screen. Let me know when you can see the screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, awesome. So just two things we wanted to share from a UiPath community perspective. We actually get into the release. We do have an Automation for Good event that's coming up, I believe, tomorrow. And so if you'd like to register for that and go through some Automation for Good community stories, feel free to scan this QR code or go to the link that's listed there in the slide. Definitely a great event. And if you have some time, I'd encourage you to check it out. And then I'll pull these up again at the end as well. And then the last one too is going to be, if you're interested in becoming a UiPath Community MVP, you can go to the link here just with the QR code again, and feel free to apply. The due date is, I believe, end of the week or December 10th to apply to become an MVP. So if you're interested, definitely encourage you to get on that sooner rather than later, especially since the deadline is coming up. All right. Any questions on either of those? All right. So now we'll get into, our latest release, the 22.10 release. We just had it maybe about 2 months ago, and are slowly, throughout till the end of the year, rolling out, the latest and greatest in terms of features across the entire platform. And so, what I like to start with first is kind of what are the trends, right? Automation that we're seeing out there, both from an industry perspective as well as, with our customers and beyond. And so, it's first and foremost, it's really shifted from a tool to more of a way of operating, right? And you'll see that what we've done with the platform and how we've kind of begun to integrate it and really add more features and capabilities to it, we're really kind of empowering the tool to become, more than just a tool, right? To really become something you can use enterprise-wide throughout an organization's business journey. The second strategic trend, as well as customer outcomes, have shifted a little bit, right? It's not just small piecemeal tactical automations, but really transformational ones, right? That are really changing the way organizations and business users interact with automations, but also leverage automations to make better, more strategic decisions, and then really focus on the value add work, right? So taking away as always a lot of that repetitive, manual, mundane activity, and really shifting that focus to focusing on the business and driving value for their organizations. Now, automation isn't just a line item, right? It's really a strategic priority, and what we're seeing and what our executives have been telling us, even from their meetings with other executives, is that it's really becoming a strategic priority for businesses to drive innovation and drive it with automation, right? Both physical as well as using automation in the context of the UiPath platform and RPA as a whole. And finally, automation is fueling a lot of those transformations, right? And so that's really where we've evolved our platform into not just an RPA tool, but something much, much more, right? Back in 2017, we were just RPA, right? It was just the core orchestrator, studios, robots. And now we've really grown that platform to include mining capabilities, process mining, task mining, intelligent document processing, and additional AI and machine learning, and really bringing in more and improved ways to handle API integrations, as well as things like test automation. So it's really kind of growing beyond just this RPA tool into this business automation platform. And so if you look at what that means today, and kind of where we've rebucketed the capabilities and the new parts of the platform, you can see we really break down the business automation platform into three distinct areas, right, where we support organizations, right? At the start, it's discover, right? Discover where and what to automate. Also, what's the highest ROI potential in terms of automation, so that you can really reap the benefits and scale quickly and get ROI quickly. And so that's really where things like process mining, task mining, and idea capture and management come into play. And one thing we've added, which we'll cover in a couple more slides down the road, is communications mining, right? You may have heard that we've acquired a company called Reinfer. And so what that's really allowing us to do is mine your communications, right? Help you understand, how are people conversing throughout your organization, even with your organization externally? And what are those conversations leading to, right? What automations can you have kick off downstream based on those communications that are coming in? And so really opening the doors to a new data set that isn't always utilized. When you think about emails and chats that are going through back and forth in your business on a day to day. Now, once you have figured out, where you want to automate and how you can automate it, next step is to actually build it, right? Build it with simplicity and ease. And then that's really where the low code development, our improvements to apps, the improvements we make generally to UI and API automation, and improvements across the board to Orchestrator, to our machine learning and AI models really come in to really help you achieve those process automations that you're looking to build. And lastly, as always, right, when you build more and more automations, you're going to need different ways to not only manage them from analytics perspective, monitoring perspective, but also continuous testing, right? Making sure you can do testing of your RP automations, but even use the same technology to do things like application testing, and make sure that, not only your automations and your testing, but, make sure that it's all unified under a single, easy to do governance capability within the platform. So when we look at what we've really focused on in terms of releases in the platform, you can see there's a lot of different capabilities and features that have been added in across those three pillars, right, within different products. And so I'm going to dive into a couple highlights here. We'll also send you this deck as well, so you can really go into some of these areas in more detail. And of course, as I go through some of the details, some of the highlights, feel free to jump in if you have any questions, or even put them in the chat. I'll keep that window open as well. Awesome. So in the Discover section, so we've added some capabilities to our process mining. First, it was available mainly in the cloud. We did have a kind of a standalone on-prem version, which we eventually moved into our automation cloud. And so now you can actually deploy it via Automation Suite as well. And so further aligning and improving our capabilities for process mining from a cloud perspective or an Automation Suite perspective. Performance-wise, we've improved, how it's able to ingest large data records. So you can see we've had major improvements in large data sets containing 1 billion records. And so being able to ingest high volumes of data really helps us look at more data in an organization from a process mining perspective, and really help tell the story of how information is flowing from system to system. We've added in, things like an automation potential dashboard to help you understand, if you were to automate certain bottlenecks or certain areas where there's bottlenecks in processes within process mining, what would that potential cost savings or time savings look like? And so there are some what if calculation scenarios behind the scenes that can help you upfront get some ideas and a better handle on where you might want to dive in to figure out where there could be automation or even just process improvement potential to help you with some savings. And lastly, one thing we, constantly want to do, and this kind of goes back to that governance and continuing to improve governance and capabilities across the platform, is adding in granular role-based access control, so that this way, not just at the tenant level, but also at the app level, you have more ability to really fine-tune who has access to what dashboards or what apps, and what can they see within the process mining tool, or if they can even see the process mining tool. So really just making sure you have a secure way to manage who's doing what and who's using that tool. And from a task mining perspective, we've continued to improve that model that's behind the scenes in terms of aggregating the data from task mining and spitting out different traces. But what we've also released is something called assisted task mining. So assisted task mining, and the best way to think of it is it's in between to full-blown task mining and task capture. What assisted task mining allows you to do is have different users capture the same task that they're going through once. And what it'll help you do is actually merge those together into different variations of that specific task. So it's kind of leveraging AI and machine learning to help with bridging together two or three different, if we call it task captures, into a single unified flow that can show you the different variations and how somebody might execute the same steps of a process, right? So you can see here, you have a creating an expense report type process, and you'll see that, the create the expense report step is the same. So is it creating the next step after that to create that expense report and add your expenses. But where it sometimes differ is in providing those details. And so you can see that there's three different flows kind of split out from the assisted task mining tool. And that was most likely given from three different variants of how somebody actually went through the process of doing their expenses. So this is kind of a way to bridge the gap between the two tools and give you a flavor of task mining, but still give you the flexibility to do more capabilities around task capture from a user-driven perspective. Now, as well in the Discover pillar, one thing we've added to and are continuing to improve is our automation hub. So we have added in some automation ROI comparisons. We've also improved the integration with Automation Hub to Insights. So if you're in the cloud, you can take advantage of having that data model for Automation Hub being available within your Insights dashboards, allowing you to do those ROI comparisons and visualize, aging reports and different things like that around some of the information and ideas that are being captured there. There's a new out-of-the-box reusable components dashboard within Insights as well that will be linked to your Automation Hub data model. So if you do have reusable components, you use them and you are publishing them into Automation Hub or linking them to Automation Hub, you'll be able to have that data and information flow through in a nice handy reporting tool. And we've also added some connectors. So we have Jira Cloud integration. So if you do any ticketing or management within Jira for those Automation Hub ideas, you now have a way to connect your Jira instance to the Automation Hub. Now, one of the newer features, and this is going to be from our Reinfer acquisition, is communications mining. What this really is doing, and right now it's in private preview as we start to integrate it more and more into the platform. But what it's really helping you do is actually extract and interpret information from different communications that you're getting, right? So it can really help you, identify and quantify the problems and the different customer and employee journeys that are happening, through different communications, whether it's emails or chats that they're going through. And so really, how this kind of works at, more of a diagram level is, step one, collect things like emails, SMSs, chats, service desk, CRM notes. And this can also happen real time as well, but you collect a data set of that. You basically within Reinfer train the model. So it's an AI machine learning model and an NLP model to do tagging, as well as named entity recognition on those different unstructured pieces of text or information. And then what you're able to do is based on that training, as new information comes in, as new emails or texts come in, you can grab that information, run, live, basically upfront and live. Reinfer will run the models on it, extract key information from it, and then based on that information, you can go ahead and drive or kick off downstream automations. And so this can give you, kind of more tailored responses or more tailored automations that act on some of those journeys that are coming in from those different things such as emails, chats, or tickets. And so an example of how this model can work or how the Reinfer models can work, on the left-hand side, you have an email that comes in, right? Now, if a person were handling this process, it would just be, whenever they can get to that email. But if you have Reinfer and automation set up to really handle the ingestion of this, they can do some initial categorization, and even kick off specific replies or automations to handle this email. And so you can see that the reinfer model is able to extract key entities, right? So things like policy number that was listed in the subject, the dates of, when they were last contacted, and then even things like that new address. And then, what makes it even powerful or more powerful from that is that it's able to get inferred intents, right? So now you're really seeing where it's using natural language processing to understand things like tone or feedback. And so, or even intent of the email, meaning, they wanted an administrative change, a change of address. And so all of those different tags can be used to kick off specific automations, depending on what those intents were and what the entities given were. So you can really create some tailored experiences when you start to use this communications mining capability with your automations. Any questions on the slides I've covered so far? Awesome.
Yeah, I don't have any, but it looks really exciting.
Good.
I'm blown away by the data mining in the texts.
The reinfer side?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really, we're going to continue to expand and get more and more machine learning models because, one of the themes that this was even last year too was the whole idea of semantic automation. And so this kind of gets us one step closer to going down that direction where robots are not just, doing simple logic or simple intelligence that you put in, but really starting to understand what they're looking at and the data they're seeing. So it starts to open up the doors to a lot of cool capabilities and use cases. Now the automate section. So we've made some improvements, added new products, new features as well. And so one of the things that we've done in the automate section is added something called Studio Web. And so what's nice about this is it's fully browser based and it's hosted in our automation cloud. So you don't have to download any Studio MSI installer or download anything locally to your machine. You can just quickly go into Studio Web, create an automation project, and start building your automations directly in your browser. Right now, it's just cross-platform automation. So if you still want the full capabilities of development experience and of the platform, you still want to download that Studio, the regular Studio that you're used to on your desktop. But this helps with any quick automations you need to build or just API-based automations that you want to build in kind of a lightweight manner. It's always up to date. So because it's in the cloud, we'll be managing it. We'll be pushing new updates to it, as well as managing the packages. So you no longer have to wonder if you're having the latest package within the automation that you're building, whatever activities you see there, you'll have the latest package available to you, or it'll update that package for you. You still have, the full oversight and control with governance. So automation ops still applies to Studio Web. And within that, you can set up, those different policies around naming conventions, dependencies, all of that good stuff that helps you govern your automation program. And if you're a developer already and you have Automation Cloud, you also already have access to Studio Web. So you can today, if you're in the cloud, start playing around with it and checking out how that works. So I'm going to stick with Studio, but jump gears more to our traditional Studio that we're used to. Picked out a few highlight capabilities that we've now added into Studio, both for, from a testing perspective, as well as just from a general improvement perspective. One really cool feature in the debug section or the debug tab on your Studio, if you have the 22.10 release, is we've added something called profiling. And so profiling is a window that'll open up in your Studio. And so when you're running things from the Studio itself as you're developing, you can actually see what section of your automation or what activities in your automation are taking up the most time. So it helps you split out from a percentage perspective, what's running the longest or what's taking the longest to run. So it allows you to really monitor your automation performance. And this even goes towards, when you're building your test cases, you can kind of understand, what parts of your automation or of the activities that the robot's doing are taking the longest, so that you can really dive in and focus in on making it more robust or making it faster, and really kind of slice and dice how you're looking at and improving your automations. So a really handy tool to just kind of see, where there could be bottlenecks, or where you could make kind of shortcuts or improve how the automation performs. Now, the other one that I felt was kind of a highlight as well from a studio perspective, and by no means are these all the updates. There's way more that I could kind of go on and on about, but these are just some of the highlights. But another big one is being able to grab a project that you've created and actually extract it as a library. So what's really nice about this is it emphasizes the sharing and reusability of components, and it makes it much easier to do that. So if you started off your automation program just building individual automations, not really doing the whole sharing and reusing piece of it with things like UI libraries or just creating activity libraries, this is going to help you get to that stage more quickly, so you can leverage a lot of the automations you've already built, a lot of the projects you've already built, and extract them as reusable libraries that other developers can use, or that you can use even in your test automation projects or application testing projects if you start to go down that path. So just speeds up the ability to quickly reuse components and reuse projects that you've already worked on in your downstream automations or in your application testing processes. Awesome. Any questions on Studio Web or Studio and what I've covered so far? I'm going to kind of switch gears, go into apps a little bit, and then integration service as well.
No questions, but I just kind of wanted to point out a couple really good use cases I immediately see from what you're showing us. Studio Web, one of the big problems I have is, you switch computers, or well, most of the time it happens when I switch computers within the company or something happens. And it takes a while to get all of the software downloaded and everything, but it seems like with Studio Web, you'd have a much quicker transition to getting back to automating while you wait for all of those software approvals and everything to come through on your new laptop. So I really like that. And I really like on our automation performance profiler, with those percentages, I don't know if you guys have ever had opportunities where you're automating something, but that automation doesn't just automate one component of a process. It might automate several things or even combine several processes. And with that performance profiler, it seems like it'd be easier to illustrate the time savings that you're saving from each of the processes from their original state compared to the future state. And so I really like that as well, because when I'm reporting to my company, it's much more complicated right now, trying to explain to them how this one process was actually 5 different processes and how much it saved from each of those and how those break out. And with that breakout there, you could compartmentalize that a lot better.
Yeah, and I know, currently it's just during the debugging session, but it at least gives you kind of like a starting point or a way to kind of dive deeper into, hey, it took a person just to do the get input step, let's say, like 2 minutes, but here it's taking 15 milliseconds, right? Obviously just an example, but I think that helps you really slice and dice, where are you getting your time savings? But more importantly, like when I'm developing, it's really nice to just quickly be able to know where to dive in to just try to improve something, improve a selector. Maybe the automation's having trouble with the UI selector. And so I've found it really helps in those types of scenarios.
That makes sense.
So UiPath apps. So one of the big things, or there's a couple big things around apps that we're doing. So first, we've improved different features and capabilities within apps. So you can do things like embedding iframes, embedding documents within apps itself, and really creating powerful experiences with just the drag and drop web app development capabilities that you have. The other thing that we're releasing, it's coming, we announced it, but it's kind of in preview still, but we'll be releasing it in this new year, is going to be the B2C or public facing capabilities of apps. So what's really nice about that is you start to open up the doors for how somebody or how organizations can leverage apps to work with their customers or to work with their vendors, right? Or to work with suppliers, or to work with anybody outside the organization who might not just be internal. So you're starting to really create experiences for how those customers and how those other people that work with your organization or that even work internally can really experience automation and get information that they're looking for in a much more simplistic and ease of use without having to always go through, a person or an email. And so, the example here, and if you've seen the forward event or the forward video and everything, one of the experiences onboarding, right? You could basically create for all your new hires a whole experience around pre-onboarding through apps, right? Create an app that they can, because it's a web app, open up on their phone, not only keep track of their the activities that they need to complete or where they are in that onboarding process, but even help them with things like scheduling different meetings, doing any activities with direct links to those different um, assets or areas or guides that they need to go to right from the app, right? And so even before they're onboarded and get a laptop or get all their credentials, they have an easy area to go into to start interacting with that information and really know where they are in the process. So it really reimagines that employee onboarding experience. Now, the other thing too that we released is support for integration service, right? Which really means you can now have APIs right behind the scenes of your app. So no longer is it just automations that have to be there where a robot has to run and get kicked off and then run the API or do the UI automation or whatever automation you've built. But now you can actually, if you have set up the connection with integration service, you can directly pull in those APIs so that when you click a button in the app that you've created, it immediately kicks off an API request or an API pull or get or push request or whatever the action is. And so really speeds up the performance of the app as well. So really, really a unique experience that it adds in there as well. Now, speaking of integration service, we've also done a lot of improvement there. So, first and foremost, you see there's a highlight right on the integration service. We actually have something called Connector Builder. So we have a large category of pre-built connectors to common systems, right? Jira, Microsoft 365, Dynamics, BigQuery, like a bunch of well-known systems and technologies. And so if you're using any of those, we already have a connector. You can just simply go in, do the authentication method, and now you start having an easy way to authenticate as well as use those APIs. But if we don't have a connector that's already built there, we now have the capability of allowing you to really build your own connector, right? And so that becomes really powerful because you can start to bring your own API connections into integration service and have them managed in a centralized location in terms of how you authenticate and how you connect with those applications from a development perspective. The other thing too with integration service, which you may have seen already, but it's kind of more formal now, is triggers. So what's really nice is if you have a connection set up within, let's say Outlook, you can set up a trigger for that for Outlook, where as soon as an email comes in with a specific subject or based on whatever filters are available, it can automatically kick off an automation. So what's nice there is you don't now have to have a smaller automation go and constantly check Outlook to see if there's been a new email added. Instead, you can just use integration service, basically automatically know that when there's something happening in that other application, it kicks off an automation directly. So really server-side events are now able to kick off or trigger automations, which really adds to some more simplicity, as well as helps the robots be more efficient, not necessarily being used as much for constantly checking different systems or doing kind of batch job type checks. As just a glimpse into Connector Builder, what's really unique is it's really easy to set up your APIs as well. You could do it manually, so you can manually go in, add in all the different resources, the different get, push and pull requests, or you can even use a Swagger URL definition, or even if there's a zip config file that you can download from the developer portal of that API connection you're trying to make, you can upload it into integration service and it'll automatically create these resources and definitions for you. Excuse me. And so really powerful way to quickly build and test those API connections and make sure that they're working and brought into integration service. Any questions on apps or integration service or connector builder?
Hello.
Excuse me. Hey.
Yeah, this is Ruchir Mahajan. Yeah, just wanted to say I love the concept of integration service, which will open many doors for automation, especially for the clients who have limitation of robots and can't keep the robots where the frequency of the email is not very fixed or is very less. There it can be very vital, and it will open many doors for more future opportunities for automation.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, yep, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, that's exactly why that's why we did the whole cloud elements. And that's so really, it's cloud elements is where we're getting a lot of those connectors. And then this connector builder is really kind of opening those doors even wider.
Exactly. Because of the limitation of the licenses of the robots, many clients deny some of the use cases which can be automated. Yeah. So it is a very good thing. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. So switching gears a little bit to Action Center, we've added some improvements there as well. So first, you can do email notifications automatically from Action Center for whenever, a new action is added. So it really makes it easier for users to get notified that, hey, you have an action awaiting you to take action on it or awaiting you to complete. And what this is nice for is that now you don't have to necessarily build in the email notification within your automations. It's kind of abstracted out of that. So kind of helping simplify that development experience as well. When we say global notification service, you'll see there what it really means is no matter where you are within your automation cloud, you'll actually be able to see a notification if there's a new task that's been added to Action Center. So just making that ability to move within Automation Cloud and know that you have an act to be taken, just that much easier to know that ahead of time. So really just bringing notifications to the forefront. Some feedback we also got that also led to some of these other improvements were, being able to have a dashboard within Action Center. So a lot of times, especially if there's a high volume of activities that you want to or that you need to keep track of or take action on, it can be nice to have a dashboard of your inbox. And so we basically created a dashboard view so you can see how many actions you've completed, how many you have pending, and just get some high level metrics on the actions or the activities or the tasks that are awaiting your action in Action Center. There's also, within our assistant, you can actually directly, if there's an action that's been assigned to you, you can get a notification in Assistant and actually directly take action on the action from Assistant. So you don't have to go into the Automation Cloud directly. There is a way now to open it up or open up a smaller window from Assistant and just take action on whatever tasks you have assigned to you. So again, just improving the usability and speed at which users can get into the Action Center and start actually getting back to the robots or filling in, the information that's being requested. Now, another thing we've announced and kind of that goes along hand in hand with this Microsoft Excel add-in that is coming. You may have heard it forward that we did announce a formalized partnership with Microsoft. And so as part of that and part of getting really our integrated our assistant and our products integrated into the Microsoft stack even further. One of these is the Microsoft Excel add-in, which really gives you access to your attended automations directly in Excel spreadsheets. And so what's really cool about this is now we're really bringing the assistant and automations directly to where business users or where users are actually doing work. So that it's easier for them to kick off automations or to browse through different automations right from within, in this case, Excel, right? And so, if you're going through a table and you have, a lot of analysis or data cleansing that you need to do, potentially there's an automation that you have built that you can kick off right from Excel without leaving it and have the automation take some actions for you. So really kind of ingraining the experience and bringing automations to where business users are. I covered the Action Center one, but yeah, there's a way to access and manage those tasks from Action Center directly in your assistant. And then lastly, picture-in-picture has been a big thing for being able to separate robots doing attended work from taking over your mouse and keyboard. And we know that there were some use cases or instances where picture-in-picture didn't always work for some users, just depending on how their environment was set up and how their IT stack was. And so we've also created a picture-in-picture virtual desktop option, which is a new version of PIP or picture-in-picture. And so that enables another method of where you can kind of have multitasking of attended automations, where it's more of a virtual desktop in the background instead of a secondary Windows session. And so sometimes that has had a little bit more success with customers and just how their environment is set up. So definitely something to check out and test out to see if you're not using picture-in-picture and want to start involving that in some of the automations you build. And document understanding. So, we're continuing, with the reinfer and everything to push in the AI ML space. One of the things we're doing is adding more pre-trained machine learning models to do some of the data extraction. So, we've added some financial statements, things like packing lists, tax forms, different insurance claims. And as part of that too, we're starting to build out some solution accelerators for different types of document understanding models for different industries. The other thing we're adding into is field level validations for our business rules. So you can see here in that screenshot, now when you're going to create a field, one of the fields within your taxonomy, you can actually choose some logic that you want to have set up ahead of time so that when the data is extracted and added into the taxonomy, it actually will automatically check if it meets that criteria or not. And that can also be leveraged to decide, should you send something to Action Center for human in the loop or not. So a handy way to just do field level validations for each of the fields in your taxonomy. We've also released an insights dashboard. So there is it is a preview right now, but it's a dashboard for document understanding so that it's easier for customers to keep track of, how they're using document understanding, the success rates, the average OCR confidence, average field extraction confidence rates, and different metrics around there. There is some configuration and setups that you'll need to do, but you can check out the preview page on the Insider portal to get more information on that and to see if you want to start trying it out. And then we've improved extraction and classification as well as OCR. So we've released an OCR engine, the UiPath OCR engine, so it is free for you to use that can handle Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, as well as improved our handwriting model, and it can now do German and French as well. So continuing to make improvements with our OCR engines so that we can improve what our customers have available to them just from our document understanding solution. Any questions on stuff I've covered so far? Awesome. We'll keep going. So now some highlights from the operate section, right? And so this is going to encompass a little bit of insights, testing, governance, and so we'll see what kind of additional updates have been made there. And so some of this I have covered in some of the other sections. You can tell that the platform's getting more and more integrated. But so we have some new pre-built dashboards and templates for doing different reporting, right? That includes, the Automation Hub ones as well as document understanding ones. There's been improvements in how we're actually in the data model tracking long-running workflows. So before there was a little bit of a misnomer in terms of how it was tracking utilization and time and the time component of those long-running workflows, because when there's a task in Action Center, the automation is kind of suspended. And so we've added a new field, basically our new metric, time and suspended metric, so that you can start to calculate more accurately how long is it taking the automations to run versus the entire workflow inclusive of that pause state. We've added in some data exporting, so you can go ahead and export historical data with some pre-existing fields for use in your other analytics tools of choice as well. So from our Cloud Insights data model, you can go ahead and export similar information from a historical perspective to ingest in other dashboards or views that you're trying to aggregate. So again, adding more capabilities to insights and to really how you can slice and dice the analytics of just using automation in your entire automation program. So testing. So we've added some improvements to Test Manager, and Test Manager is where you're going to review all the results, where you'll be able to connect your lifecycle management tools, and so just added some user-friendly ability in terms of being able to filter and search for different things, as well as doing some external reporting with Excel. We've improved and added in kind of reporting, or even kind of support for creating your actual test cases. And so there's different things when we talk about zero-touch RPA testing. It's really where we've started to add in some experimental but methods of being able to create the test data for your RPA use cases automatically, and even creating that test data automatically using some AI in the background. So definitely a cool feature to check out and try out as well. The other thing is that we did announce our cloud robots, right? So the automation cloud robots, meaning the unattended robots that we host the infrastructure for you. You really just have to bring the workflows. And so we've added the capability to have those robots also be a cloud test robots, meaning you can have your test robots fully managed by us, fully a SaaS solution where we'll run and manage that infrastructure. All you have to do is create those test cases and then set up the machine images. We've also added integration for TaskTop. And so TaskTop is basically a company that has a lot of connectors to common lifecycle management tools. And so we've started to open up the doors for what pre-built connections we have to those other lifecycle management tools through TaskTop. But then we also always have that open SDK, so you can always connect your task manager or even your test suite to those other tools that you're using for lifecycle management. Now for Orchestrator, just some general kind of housekeeping updates, more improvements into kind of the usability and some of the capabilities. So we have improved the classic to modern folders migration tool. You may have seen that we'll be depreciating classic folders. You can still create them today, but they're going to be slowly depreciated. So highly recommend moving to modern folders, and this tool can really help you do that efficiently. There's also an alerts overhaul. So now you have kind of a summary around, what the alerts are that you're getting from a tenant level, just so you can quickly see, what are the jobs that are being faulted or not finished, and kind of do some more troubleshooting more easily from a end user perspective. So really just improving the quality of that experience across the board. And then even, we've added things like more job priorities, a new job scheduler, and an additional credential store. So really just improving the capabilities of Orchestrator to help you manage your automations and automation program more easily. Now, lastly, automation cloud. So, if you are in the cloud, or if you're thinking about moving to the cloud, this can be of interest to you. We've added a couple things here, one being delayed update ring. So if you know that, or if you've been exploring the automation cloud, you know that we'll push updates to the automation cloud automatically, at least the services side, meaning studios and robots and assistants you still manage, but the actual automation cloud, Orchestrator, and everything that lives in the cloud, we automatically push those updates. So we've added a couple things kind of help customers who may have said, hey, we want a little bit more control or heads up before those updates come through. One being a delayed update ring, meaning it gives you a little bit more lead time to actually test those updates before they happen, and kind of stay on a prior version of the automation cloud instance. And then even something called a canary tenant. The canary tenant is really helpful because it allows you to get a preview of some of the new features and capabilities that are coming to the platform before they actually hit your production and development instances. And then there's been some other updates as well to the cloud, just to help in terms of usability, IP range restrictions, allowing you to kind of do customer managed keys. And then the automation cloud robots themselves have had some improvements. The test automation support, as I mentioned, additional sizes and pricings for those machines. You can create kind of VM pools, and then we used to be only point-to-site VPN connections were available. Now we've opened it up to site-to-site VPN connections being available. Awesome. So that's what I had to cover in terms of highlights from the platform. Were there any kind of questions that anyone had around anything either that I've covered or that you've heard about the platform and wanted to kind of go into in a little bit more detail? And I'll bring up the larger list as well.
And I know we probably have different people working from all different types of business areas of their companies. I work in the finance, so I come from that perspective. So if anybody has any use cases they're excited about with these new updates, feel free to share them as well as kind of inspiration for each other.
Yeah, is there anything anyone's working on where they see some of these new improvements can come in handy or be helpful? Awesome. Well, again, I will bring up those other two slides that I had. So again, if you're interested, just to kind of wrap up in automation for good, I encourage you to sign up. That'll be happening tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern. And then if you're interested in applying to be an MVP, community MVP, again, those applications, that deadline is coming up as well. So if you're interested, highly recommend at least checking out the application, seeing if it makes sense and something you'd like to do and pursue, and definitely check it out as well.
And I know the Zoom toolbar hides some of that deadline information. So it is December 10th if you guys didn't see that. Thank you so much for hosting this and for answering all those questions. I really enjoyed the in-depth exploration on some of those highlight items.
Yeah, happy to. And thanks for having me. I was glad I could share some of the latest updates, and there's plenty more. So when we send out the deck, definitely take a look at that slide, that initial slide. It'll have kind of more details around some of those improvements. And as always, check out our docs. They'll have everything in detail and in depth.
Thank you so much. If nobody else has any questions, I guess we can give you guys back a few minutes of your day. But again, thank you so much for joining us, and please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn and join the community if you haven't already, and look out for future meetings.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.